Brother Derek, how you doing? This is Reggie.
Hey, what's going on, Reggie?
Hey, man. I just tuned in a few minutes ago, so I was actually just listening to your story about...
well, I'm sure you've heard these stories once before.
Yeah, so I've heard some of them. I mean, you and I have had several conversations over the past year and a half or so, and you've told me how you're kind of getting into some witchcraft and different things like that. And so it's definitely nothing new for my ears coming from you,
Yeah. Yeah, what about yourself, man? Have you seen what they call shadow people, or, you know, any type of spirits or ghosts or anything like that? Any kind of physical manifestations?
Yeah, brother. I think you and I were talking about it the other day, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe it was just the other day. I was talking to you about this very subject, and actually, whenever I was younger, especially whenever you're a child, as I was talking to a friend of mine today about how Jesus said that unless you become like a little child, you're not fit for the kingdom of heaven. And whenever you really break that down, it really makes a lot of sense. He's pretty much saying that unless you have faith like a little child and believe like a little child, then you won't be able to receive what it is I'm trying to give you. You won't be able to receive and understand these things in the metaphysical and spiritual, because then he also made the statement, he said, I am spirit. And so that being said, I'm going to build that platform, launch to my childhood, because whenever I was a young boy, as a matter of fact, whenever I was about 6, 7 years old, was whenever I was called by God. And I remember sitting in a church and he called me, but right around that same time, up into a couple years after that, I was actually seeing different things. In my younger days, the first thing I started seeing was what you were referring to, shadow people. I would wake up in my room at night, and I was a rough sleeper. I'd probably sleep 3 or 4 hours a night, and so I'd wake up, and of course, in very little light, I could see what would look like the body of a man standing at the foot of my bed or at the door of the room, staring at me. It'd just be a shadow, mind you, like almost like a silhouette of someone. If you were to see someone in the dark, and you could feel the presence. I mean, it's not like you think you're seeing things. It's you see it and you know there's a presence there. Just in your mind, in your psyche, or whatever you want to call it. And so I would get up, and of course, you wake up, and so you're rubbing your eyes, and then you rub your eyes again to make sure you're not seeing things, and it still looks like a being is still standing there. Sometimes the being would disappear, but then most of the time, let's say 8 out of 10 times, the being would just stand there. And I thought it was my dad. Like my dad had just snuck into my room in the middle of the night, and for some reason was maybe just checking on me or something. I don't know. But it was really kind of weird to me that it was, dark, and the only thing you could see was like maybe a night light in the hallway, that little bit of light, that was casting shadow. And so I would get out of bed and approach this person to try to touch him to see if it was my dad and to see if there was someone really there. And then I'd end up walking right through it and walking right into my dresser or the wall or something like that. And and struggle to find my way back to my bed. It was really strange. And that happened several times where I saw these shadow people, and I mean I was scared. I definitely wasn't scared out of my mind per se, but I was definitely a little creeped out by it. And so I'd go find my way back to my bed and climb under the covers. Of course, I was called by God, and so I had a belief in God, and I had prayed to God and responded. Definitely didn't fully understand what salvation was at the time, but anyway, go ahead, brother.
So I was going to say, you were actually seeing this stuff as a Christian, as a believer.
Right. As a young child, I can't remember. I want to say that I was seeing these things before and after I was called, but not necessarily before I fully understood what salvation was and had fully given my heart to the Lord. So, there are experiences that I did have after But most of these, like the dark experiences, happened before, in my younger years, as if, I don't know if I can put it this way or not, but almost as if, it was almost like these beings were watching me, or if they were trying to, they knew that I was called, and they were trying to, I don't know, intervene. I don't know what their plan was, but the whole time, as a young child, I felt this peace, almost like I was being protected. And, of course, it wasn't until later in my life.
See, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that in my experience. Go ahead.
Oh, that's fine. But whenever later on, whenever, I want to say maybe about 2 years ago, I was praying and the Lord revealed something to me. He just he showed me that he had put a hedge of protection around me ever since my infancy, and was not going to let anything harm me. So he did reveal that to me, that since he chose me at such a young age, that he had been protecting me, and that he had, if you want, his servants, his angels around me, protecting me from harm. And that's physical harm and demonic harm, although I have been, later on, whenever I was running from the Lord for a time, I felt these demons or spirits all around me, but I never saw them at that point. I just felt them. I felt them in a way I'd never felt them before. And like you said, whenever I was deliberately running from Adonai, when I was deliberately running from God and I turned my back on him, it's like I left his protection, per se. Although these spirits never did, again, enter me or anything, I felt them on me. I felt as if they were hovering around me, laughing at me, and I felt the darkness was so depressing and so even scary that I was in fear for my own soul. And that was right around the time, of course, that that the Lord awakened me and brought me back to himself in the fullest sense of the form. But then, of course, I think we were also talking, I don't know if this has to do anything with what we're talking about being oranges of demons, but I also witnessed angels as well. So it wasn't that I just saw, dark shadow people. I also saw the men in white that you and I discussed. I didn't know if that's something you wanted me to go into or not.
What I was wanting to hit at, I'm actually watching the chat room now, and there's some pretty good discussion going on, and people are talking about feeling the presence. Like there was one person, Warrior of Truth, said, I don't remember ever seeing anything that stands out in my mind, but I have felt the evil presence very strong. So they were talking about even not seeing anything, but feeling the presence. And
right.
And that's one thing you were actually hitting on, how you knew there was. I don't know if you can hear me or if anybody in the room can hear me, but I'm going to keep going. You hear me?
Yeah, you were cutting in and out. Probably some technical.
Okay.
Blog talk.
Hey, when you start talking about these kind of issues, man, you start talking about these demons and things like that, they don't like it, and they definitely, definitely dwell in another realm of frequency, and they can mess with, frequencies. We're gonna go into that while we're talking about it. Now, these evil spirits can tap into frequencies. That's when we talk about your mind, and we're talking about guarding your mind. Well, your mind and every thought that you process is a frequency, okay? And your brain is like transmitting these different waves and things of that nature, okay? And when you think about demons, there was a movie that came out called White Noise, okay? And these evil spirits or ghosts or from past lives and things like that in the movie was able to manipulate the fuzz on the TV and make pictures. And a lot of people, think that's just a movie, but no, that is a phenomenon that was occurring. Just like you remember the movie Poltergeist, where they were talking to the little girl through the TV. Go ahead.
Brother, were you referring to the movie White Noise, I believe it was?
Yeah, White Noise.
Oh,
and
yeah, that was interesting. I was thinking about what you were saying about the invention of television and frequencies. I believe there was if I'm not mistaken.
That's what we're going into. Go ahead.
Yeah, the name of the man who invented television. I think he was a Scottish inventor by the name of John Logie Baird. I guess that's how you would spell the last name, is Baird. And I mean, you're familiar with the documentaries of the spirit world and different things that go into this. But I believe he was a practicing warlock in the sense that he was creating or inventing the television as a gateway to let spirits through from the supernatural dimension into our realm. I think if that, I'm getting my words all tangled up, but
yeah. I mean, that's the thing, is that these spirits, they actually found out from communicating with these spirits that these spirits have the ability to manipulate the smallest part of an atom. That's why you don't, whenever you see a spirit or you see a demon or something like that, you don't see an actual flesh and bone entity running through your house or in the woods or something like that. You see a shadow or the light bending around them, because they have the ability to play off of the smallest part of an atom. Okay, and that's what this guy found out, who was dealing with these different demons, and he was contacting demons and entities, and he made, I think it's called the cathode ray tube, and that's the tube that is in your television. They made that to begin with to project light out of one side of it, and it would project on the wall on the other side, and it would make this image, these different swirls, and these ghosts would be able to send different messages to them when they was contacting the dead and contacting these evil spirits. So he later sold that patent to the people who eventually made the television, and that same tube that they were using to conjure spirits is sitting in front of us in our televisions and in our computers and things of that nature. So, and obviously you see the power in it. Spiritually, when you see that, just the effects of media itself, and seeing that, anything that they send through the TV, it can infiltrate the culture in one day. If T.I. or Lil Wayne gets on there and wears his hat a certain type of way, or gets some new haircut, like, you know what I'm saying? And it's true, man, because, you know what I'm saying, it's just like them pushing the fads or pushing anything, like the homosexual agenda, anything they want, all they got to do is put it through the TV, and it's going to happen. That's the power, man, and that's the origins of the television for y'all. So you have anything to add on that, Reggie?
It just goes back to what you're saying about, the mind operates on frequencies, television and radio, and media operates on frequencies. And there's been studies to show that actually, like the average, you're saying pushing fads and different things, and actually almost subliminally programming people's minds with what they put on the television, into where it's putting thoughts in your mind, and you don't even really realize it, that it's there. And I did a little bit of looking into that, how the people who design television advertisements and different things in the programming, it's designed in such a way they study hypnotics and different things like that, to where it sends out certain flashes of lights and different things like that, and different images, and such a pattern that I don't know if you've ever walked into a room and seen somebody staring at the television with their mouth open or something like that, and you can call their name and wave your hand in front of their face, and it's almost like they won't even budge until you shout. They're literally hypnotized. It happens to me. It happens to my wife. It happens to everybody.
Me too.
And I think that it's literally a way of hypnosis.
Sigmund Freud was the one who actually went into that. Sigmund Freud was the one who went into that and found that out, that there were certain parts of your mind that lies dormant, that if they was able to tap into these parts of your mind by different images that would stimulate that, then they would be able to control you. And that's these places where these demons want to get into, these dormant places in your mind where, you see things subliminally. Like, it's kind of like, that it's just that nature. It's almost part of that fallen nature, which they found out and they play off of. Kind of like one reference I like to give is, say, you walking through the mall or whatever, shopping or just out and about just to get out the house, and you go into a store and you see something you really want. It might be a hat. It might be a certain type of T-shirts, 3 or 4 T-shirts, and you buy them all because you really wanted them. You had that overwhelming sensation of wanting them, and it caught your eye in a certain type of way. So then you leave and you get back to the house and you realize how much money you spent, and really in all reality you didn't even want it. You could have. There's times that I've been guilty of that, and that's part of that individuality that they play off of. They want to sell you the start of being an individual. Now that we're talking about that and getting into, how they can manipulate electricity and frequencies and things like that, also to make themselves known. And we're talking about the mind, and when you really think about the mind and the body, you have electricity running throughout your body as well. I don't know the exact quote on it, but your body's made up based of water and electricity. Your body is like a machine that is running, perfectly in time. But one thing I want to get at on that is that dealing with like that. These spirits can inhabit a body. They can inhabit humans. Now, we went into origins of demons. Part 1, we were talking about the origins of, when we read in the book of Enoch, where it talks about that, we read in the book of Genesis chapter 6, where the sons of God came down to the daughters of men and took wives for themselves and had children. Well, the souls of these children could not go to heaven and could not stay on. They couldn't stay on earth, so they had to stay in the spirit realm that's in between. Okay, this is another dimension that's here, coexisting with us, but they don't have bodies. So the only way that I'm gonna let you guys know, the only way that these demons can feel sensations is if they have a body. Just like that movie that came out, Fallen, they would inhabit these different bodies and do different things, okay? So these demons, they still desire to eat. They still desire to kill. They still desire to be with men and women, They still want to do that, but they are mad at you because you have that right and they don't. They're stuck in between. And the only way that they can do this is if they have a body to do it. So, and the very nature of all these fallen angels was wicked. They were birthed and bred in rebellion, and that's just their nature. So when you see all this sin going on and all these people doing this crazy stuff out there, having sex with animals and messing with children and things like that, a lot of that stuff, I'm not going to say every case, but a lot of that stuff is demon influenced, okay? This person has given himself over to demons. And whether, like I was talking about, how the eyes and the ears are the windows of the soul, maybe, they found a foothold through the television, watching scary movies. Every time you shut off the light, now you're scared to death. That was me as a child. Every time you see a woman, you're thinking about taking her clothes off with your mind. You're undressing her with your mind because you've been watching all these pornos and things of that nature, okay? So it's these different ways that these demons inhabit our bodies. And we have to walk in the light, and that light is Christ. And as long as we're walking in that light and we're empty before the Lord and we're filled with His Spirit, then we're basically exempt from these other spirits in certain areas now, because wherever you give a foothold to the enemy in a certain area, then he can come in. But as long as you're walking in the Spirit of Christ in these certain areas, you basically have protection in those areas, all right? And the reason we know that, first of all, I've had demons casted out of me. And, like on the last show we were talking about, seeing demons casted out of people and them being 100% changed. 100%, new crackheads, people smoking crack, 15 years, they repent and go to the altar. We lay hands on them, and a spirit manifests and comes out of them. And these people are 100% different. Now, I can see if they left and went smoking crack and they doing whatever, but these people are actually changed. okay? And the Bible bids us, Christ bids us to go out and to cast demons out of people. That's on the agenda for every so-called believer, okay? So now that we're talking about that, do you have anything to add to that, Reggie?
Well, as far as the demons coming into people and getting a foothold, it just goes back to what you were saying earlier about the mind. Mind is a body field. I'm sorry, the mind is a battlefield, and like Jesus said in Matthew 6:22 through 23, he said, "The light of the body is the eye. If therefore the eye, thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. But if thine eye be evil, thy whole body shall be full of darkness. If therefore the light that is in thee be darkness, how great is that darkness?" And then Romans 12:1 through 3, "Therefore I urge you, brothers, in view of God's mercy, to offer your bodies as living sacrifices, holy and pleasing to God. This is your spiritual act of worship. Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." I said through verse 3, but that's actually just the first two verses of Romans 12. But, I mean, just thinking about that, and I know that Yeshua Jesus said also that do not be deceived. Bad company corrupts character, and I've heard that used in the suggestion that cleanliness doesn't rub off, dirt does. So who you hang around, and what you watch, and what you take part in, what you read, it's going to rub off on you. Let's say, Derek, you came in from work, and you got showered off, put on a fresh, your wife had just washed a nice clean set of clothes for you. You put them on, you're getting ready to go out with your wife to dinner, and then I show up on your doorstep, and I've been, digging ditches all day, and so I'm covered in silt and clay, and I say, Derek, buddy, and I just grab you and hug you. All right, is that going to make me more clean, or is that going to make you dirty? So it's kind of a deception to think that by being around this, we will make those problems go away. We have to, therefore, like you were saying, have our minds renewed and conform to Christ, and that's by through prayer and meditation, connecting with the Spirit and through the Word of God, so that whenever we see these things in the world, we'll be able to discern what is God's will, what is good and pleasing and perfect to Him, and what isn't.
That's true, man. Thanks for bringing that out.